Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody is doing great and had a wonderful day. Um, I'm having a purple rain kind of day, if that's a thing to have. And I don't know if you all can hear that, but I have my Prince playing in the background, and I have on my Purple Rain T-shirt. Incidentally, I have a Prince station on my Pandora, and just so happens today I turned it on, and guess what's playing? All of the Purple Rain albums. So we are in sync. You notice my little purple women. I'm pointing, trying to point.
I see it.
You see, look, y'all know. Look, which way? That way.
Yeah, you got it.
I got that from New Orleans some years ago, but it's like a little purple mask. All of this is weird because all this purple is lining up for some reason today. So apparently it was supposed to be a Prince Day anyway. So, welcome. And this is Prince's version of the latest voucher, Wonderlow. I'm your host, Wonderlow. I am very happy to be here this evening with you all. Like I said, I hope that you've had a great day so far. It is so much going on in the world. You know, I took a hiatus from news, so I'll just tell you what I do see. I see a lot of things today talking about George Floyd, and we want to make sure that we continuously keep his family and keep everybody in prayer. And they're still dealing with this. I mean, they're going to have some rallies. There are going to be some things going to come up. And you still hear news people still trying to put negative things out about him, whatever. You know, we want to make sure that we keep a positive spin on it. We make sure that this man did not die in vain. You know, everybody was excited when the verdict came in. We haven't heard the sentencing yet. So I'm still a little apprehensive to celebrate way too much until we get this sentencing. But either way, let's continue to keep his family as well as all of the other families of the folks around in our community who have lost their lives due to, you know what I'm going to say, but I ain't going to say it. But anyway, let's keep all of us in prayer and keep supporting and keep walking, keep marching, keep protesting, we have to keep this in front of everybody. So it's a lot going on. There's the big mask debate now that's happening with everybody trying to figure out, because people are getting vaccinated, that whether or not they want to go without their mask. I'm going to say this, and this is just for me, and however you want to do it, of course, is up to you. But I will continue to wear a mask when I go out. Had to do a little grocery shopping this afternoon. It was a little bit shocked to walk through the grocery store and to see so many people without masks on. Now, I understand that we want to say the vaccine is doing whatever the vaccine is supposed to do, and that's all well and good. Whether you've been vaccinated or not is your personal business. I saw a post the other day about somebody wanted to ask is people coming into some place or going wherever it was, but wanted to personally ask everybody whether or not they've been vaccinated. Well, that's not your business. That really is not your business. You don't walk around asking people if they're diabetic. You don't walk around asking folks if they're HIV positive. You don't walk around asking people if they have heart disease. That is a personal medical choice as to whether or not you want to be vaccinated or you don't want to be vaccinated. I have not been. I don't plan to do it. But that's also my personal choice, and that's my personal feeling. And I'll defend that. So, you know, my part of it is I'm always going to wash my hands because it's just who I am. But I am still social distancing, and I still am wearing my mask. And, you know, really and truly, until this thing is under control to a point where you don't see those new cases popping up, hundreds of new cases every day popping up, please continue to social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands, clean your surfaces, because the other part of it is, you know, people are sneezing and coughing. And again, y'all, the other day, somebody coughed in the store and cleared out 2 or 3 aisles because people are still very apprehensive about, you know, coughing and sneezing or whatever in public. So, you know, just be careful when you're out because, you know, a lot of folks believe, number one, that COVID is real and was or is real, and they don't believe that people are getting sick and dying. And because they don't believe that they are putting other people in jeopardy when they're spreading germs without, you know, using anything to protect themselves or you. So make sure that you're still keeping your social distance from everybody. You know, some churches we're getting more and more churches is not a word. I made that up. Churches, not churches, but churches are opening back up, and you're going to have more congregations going back in. And I do appreciate something I've seen, and I'll say at my church, is that we are still social distancing. We're not sitting pew to pew. We're sitting every other pew. They've spaced out everybody so that when we do come back in, we're not sitting really close to each other, unless you're a family now. If you're a family and you're coming in with your family, then that's fine. But as far as sitting right next to anybody, there's space between everything. There's sanitizing stations, and there's a way for you to, keep your hands clean. And of course, we're going to be wearing our masks. So make sure that you just continue to do the things that are going to keep you healthy, that are going to keep your family healthy. God bless you, whether you got whether you got vaccinated or not. Again, that's your choice. But make sure still, regardless of whether you have or you have not, that you keep yourself safe and that you continue to social distance, wash your hands, use sanitizer, clean your surfaces, do all those things that we've been doing for the past shoot. We've been in so long now. I forgot. Have we been in a year or 2 years?
No, it's just been a little over a year.
Yeah,
it was around March of last year. So
oh,
about 14 months.
I'm thinking about school, because the kids have literally been out of school now, going on 2 school years. Yeah. So yeah, just thinking about that. You have a lot of seniors that are graduating. Let me turn Prince down. He over here showing that. Hold on, y'all. Man, I just have to turn it down a little bit. That's the part I like. It's the part at the end, the Purple Rain, when he's doing the I almost said the piano solo, the guitar solo. That's my favorite part. But anyway, so looking at these kids have been out of school almost 2 years. So this year you have kids that at least are having graduations. I see a lot of posts. Congratulations to all those kids that are graduating. Congratulations to the parents that got you there. All the folks that prayed for you to make it to that graduation. And then congratulations to all the college students. I see like a gang of people graduating with degrees. I mean, master's degrees, bachelor, just whatever. Congratulations. Job well done. Glad you were able to make it through. Keep going. We need more professionals in the workplace. We need more professionals starting businesses and taking care of us. So keep it up. Keep going. Congratulations. Good job. Where to go. Kudos. High five. All that good stuff. So
can I mention, I know two people, one, a colleague from undergrad, Dr. Rosalind Sanders recently defended her dissertation. And one of my very good friends, future Dr. Robert Mays, will defend his dissertation tomorrow. So that's been really exciting to be connected to other people who have gone on to attain their doctorate. And I have quite a few friends who are still in their process, but it's really exciting when people get to that finish line, because it reminds you of what it felt like for you. But it's just exciting to know that we have more people who look like us who are coming into the arena of academia and to hold that title, and who do good work. It's not even just about the title, but it's about the work that we get to do and what the title, the doors that are open due to it. So,
well, I'm happy for them too. All right, y'all. Let me do my last little bit of housekeeping, and I got to introduce this beautiful woman. Wait a minute. I always hold on.
Other way. There it goes.
My right hand. Yeah, I go the opposite direction. This is like me trying to comb my hair in the mirror. I cannot do it. And it's funny because people go, why I cannot do it? Because I'm always going to go on the wrong side. Anyway, if you have not liked our page or you haven't followed us in the past, please do so. You can find me, all of my social media is the exact same. All of it is The Lady Sandwich with Wonderlow on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Make sure if you're on YouTube and you're watching that you hit that subscribe button and you hit the bell so that you get reminders whenever new videos post. If you're on Facebook, then make sure you like and follow the page. Like and follow. Do both of them. Like and follow. I need both of them. And when you do that and you see me post and it says that I'm going to post a live pretty soon, if you'll click on that button that says reminder, that'll remind you whenever we go live again, so that way you can catch us on Facebook too. Instagram, I'm not live on just yet, but I do post on Instagram. So make sure that you go in. Again, it's The Lady Sandwich with Wonderlow, and like our page there too. Now, let me get my drum roll. This young lady has been on a couple of times, and every show that she's been on is always amazing. she has so much information, so much intelligence to share with us, so much insight into what happens in here. And I like that because sometimes I need help with what's going on in here. And she can always give us that help. I'm going to welcome Dr. Theresa Flowers, and she's a licensed social worker. Is that right?
Yes, licensed clinical social worker.
There you go. I knew I was going to mess up one of them letters in
there.
It's okay. So what I want to do right now is give you a chance to tell the folks about your credentials because you are a doctor.
Oh.
And I want to talk about your doctor.
I am Dr. Theresa Flowers. I have a PhD in social work from Adelphi University. And I am also a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Arkansas and in Texas. I'm working on getting that license in a few other states for the freedom to work in multiple places and giving more opportunity to work with different people in different settings. And so I have at this point, I have about 15 years of experience as a professional social worker, and I've worked in a number of settings. I'm talking about across the board. This is why I like social work so much, because I've done drug and alcohol counseling. I've worked in a federal government program. I've worked in the hospital, at Children's Hospital. I've worked in schools and community programs. And so I have a wealth of experience working with children, adolescents, adults, families, everybody. I currently own my own practice. It's called Seed of Faith Counseling and Services, LLC, which is located in Little Rock, and currently see clients from teenagers up to people in their 60s, I think, close to 70 maybe. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy the work that I do, and I'm reminded my work doesn't really feel like work. Sometimes it does, but the opportunity to work with people and to help people get new tools to put in their toolbox, that's what I call it. Mm-hmm. I take every opportunity that when we're working on skills, that we're just adding new tools to our toolbox, because sometimes the old tools don't work anymore. And so learning how to think differently and reframe and expand our mindset is really, really helpful.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that tells you right there. She knows what you're talking about. I always like to start and make sure that everybody shares their credentials. So, because people go, well, how could she tell me something? She don't know nothing. You know her stuff. She knows her stuff. So,
here you go.
Now y'all know she know her stuff.
I tell my mom all the time, because she used to tell me as a kid I talk too much, and I am a talker. And so I remember when it hit me, and I called her one day. I said, "Mama, you remember you told me I talk too much?" I said, "Well, guess what, Mama? People pay me to come talk."
There you go. Hey, if you're gonna do it, get paid for it. Well, see, and then we listen. Because the other half of that is you're talking, but we listen. So let's get into this topic for tonight. So we're talking about relationships, situationships, and more. I don't know what made me think of situationships, because we didn't technically discuss that beforehand, but I don't know. I think I looked at somebody's profile before or whatever, and I think their status thing was it's complicated. Their relationship status is complicated. And somewhere in the post, they started talking about being in a situationship. And I'm like, what in the crap? It's a situationship.
It's a relationship without a title.
Okay. Makes sense.
That's what I call them, because anytime you're engaging in any shape, form, or fashion with another person, you're in a relationship. It's levels to relationships, but being in friendship, whether it's in intimacy, and it's just levels to it. And so I think it's been a while now. A couple of years back, it became popular to just call it a situationship. It took some of the pressure off and some of the responsibility and accountability away from a relationship.
Oh my God. So I figure it's just you taking up somebody's time, but you don't have a commitment to make that time, I don't want to say important. You don't have a commitment. It's like
it's a commitment. And so it's where we started. We're gonna start on the situation.
We started a situation, work our way through. Because we
got. Well, I'm going to take us back just a little and we'll kind of talk about it from the standpoint that the reality is the way we view relationships in general start, as we discussed before, at the root. When you're thinking about our families of origin. So we talked about this. When you look at families and you think about how people view relationships, what they deem as important, what they don't deem as important, a lot of that comes from your family of origin. So your parents, were your parents married? Were they separated? Was it a healthy relationship? Was it problematic? What were the challenges of that? And so when you look at that and look at how people engage and interact with each other, that sets the tone for a lot of people as to the type of relationships they're going to have. So I'm pretty transparent, and I hope I don't get in trouble because it means I'm going to share a little bit of my parents' business. One of the things I learned is when you grow up in a home, you know, Black folks don't be telling folks my business. Well, if it happens around me and I'm privy to it, it's my business too. You all want me to know, keep it real private.
There you go.
But I seen growing up, close to my teenage years, the relationship my parents had. And initially very loving, caring, but when I was teenage years, my dad was a Rolling Stone. He had all the women. Every time I turned around, I was like, dang. And my mom's feelings would be hurt. And in my mind, I went, if somebody gonna get their feelings hurt, it won't be me. So how do you think that set the tone for relationships? I was queen of, I don't really do boyfriends. I always had friends. Because I was like, I seen a lot of errors being put on where people be like, oh, that's my boyfriend. I'm like, you got a new boyfriend every 3 months. Or you're his girlfriend, but he's 3 people boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
So I think at some point, by the time I got to college, I think it's when situationships got a little more popular and acceptable, where people openly be like, nah, we just got a little thing. You know, ain't nothing serious.
I remember hearing it referred to as that.
Yeah, we got a little thing, but you know. And so where people, I do with my thing, you know, they keep their main thing, but they have a few things. But a lot of that is rooted in what we see growing up. And then I think as we get older, then it's related to our own experiences with relationships. And so one of the things you and I talked about was the fact that what's this view of relationships? A lot of people grow up, even if their families weren't intact, so to speak, people desire this image that we see on TV, we see in movies. We talk about the princess culture of Disney, that things can be bad, but you're going to be saved by Prince Charming. Excuse me, there's going to be this wedding. And when that doesn't happen, what does that mean for people? My question always is your view of relationships realistic?
Exactly.
So I think a lot of that, you hear people say, oh, my grandparents were together for 50 years. And I'm like, I think that's great. I love when people are able to make it work. But I'm like, of the 50 years, how many of those years were decent? Not even good. But how many were decent, were good, that didn't involve domestic violence, didn't involve 3 or 4 separate families?
Exactly.
How many of those years were healthy, worthy years that someone who maybe stayed single till they were 45, 50, and now they're in a healthy relationship for 20, 30 years versus the 50 years? What's the quality of the relationship? So I think when we look at these things and look at the different types of relationships, how we choose our spouses and partners, significant others, whatever term floats your boat, how we choose really comes from where we come from. You look at the relationships in your family and how those kind of work out. So when talking about a situationship, I think it's really important for people to take a moment to look at their upbringing and kind of understand where their expectations come from.
Mm-hmm. I know we talked about it before. We going back to what you said about coming from a two-parent household. The majority of now that goes, and I've seen it go both ways because I know people that came from a two-parent household that never wanted to get married, and then I've seen people come from a two-parent household that couldn't wait to be married because that was what they were used to. They were used to being, I guess you could say, part of a couple or seeing a couple. And in their minds, because mom and daddy were married and because mom and daddy stayed together, then that's what I should be doing also. And all the time, marriage is not, and this is going to sound funny, and some folks be like, what she said? I'm saying what I said. All the time, marriage is not good for everybody. Some people, it just is not a good thing for them because they have their own individual personalities, they have their own individual way they think, they have their own everything, they have their own identity. And when you try to couple them with somebody, or they try to couple themselves with somebody, especially when you're not willing or ready to be, to compromise or to learn how to communicate, or to share or to be a part of something that should be a little bit bigger than you, then marriage is not for you. Now, I've also seen people that, and we talked about this a lot, that have stayed together because it's what's comfortable. Grandma and grandpa were married for 50 years. But like you said, grandpa had, what is calling me? Hold on, babe. Somebody call me on my phone. Somebody always do that to me every week for some reason. But anyway, so yeah, grandma and grandpa stayed married for 50 years. And Leandra Sanders is coming. She said, healthy years, not oppressed years. Exactly right. Because if grandma only stayed with grandpa because he was back then, he was the breadwinner. They had 12 kids, He had other families, and he was abusive to her. He was probably abusive to the kids. But you stayed because your parents or whoever you came from told you, that's a good man. He got a job. You better stay over there with that man because y'all got all them children.
And you gotta come here.
Yeah. And you can't move 12 kids in somebody's house. I mean, it just don't work out that well. So you had all these reasons for those 50 years. So you're right, Ms. Sanders. It could not have been all healthy years. It could have been some oppressed years. It could have been some in-between years. It could have been some very small, times or months or whatever in there where things were wonderful. But 50 years, people look at them and go, oh my God, y'all were married 50 years. And that woman got 50 scars.
And sometimes, let's be clear, sometimes the man has 100 because we keep acting like Jesus. What was his name who had to marry the prostitute?
Had to who?
In the Bible, what's the guy who had to marry the prostitute? I can't recall his name right now, but people forget that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We my thing is this. Let me be very clear. I love marriage. I believe in marriage. I'm an advocate for marriage. I always have been. I also am an advocate of common sense. I'm also an advocate of you learning who you are before you couple with someone, and you learning healthy boundaries for yourself so that you can then implement them with whoever you're in a relationship with. It's not just intimate relationships. I tell people all the time, every relationship that I'm in my life is a model and setting a tone for what my future marriage will be. So my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my friends, my relationship with my colleagues, if I don't know how to be in healthy relationships with those people, how in the world do I think I'm going to be able to be in a healthy relationship with a significant other, with a partner, and with a husband, and I haven't learned how to compromise with these people who I've known my whole life, a majority of my life, or people who you work with, who you have stressful moments and struggles with. If you haven't learned how to compromise and knowing what battles to fight and knowing when to be quiet. Like, if you haven't learned these things, in these settings, when you get into a relationship with a significant other, it's going to be really challenging to practice those things. I think every relationship gives us the opportunity to model behaviors and learn behaviors that are going to be appropriate for when we become one with someone, if that's what you choose. I know some people, they don't desire marriage. They have no desire for that. They like what they like, and they do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I always tell people what works for you. People keep trying to press folks to do the tradition and the norm. And I personally have seen relationships where, well, I chose this person because my family knew them.
Exactly.
I chose this person because they meet my need in the moment, but I didn't calculate the cost of what it means for everything else. The reality is this: nobody's perfect. You can't. I see some couples, I know some couples who have fairly healthy relationships from my understanding of what I'm allowed to see. It doesn't mean they don't have struggles or challenges. It's how they get through those struggles and challenges that has made the difference in their commitment, that both people have said, this is what we want, and we're both going to work for it. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen come from that is that people's willingness and ability to compromise and to not let everything be about them. And so whenever you have that, you see things can go a little smoother. The reality is, if it's all me, it just don't work.
No. You have to be willing to step outside of yourself and take that other person into consideration. Now, I'm like you. I'm going to say this, and when he in another room, he can't hear me though. Anyway, I tell you what, I'm going to snitch on me. How about that? I just tell on me. Now, I will say, we've been married, this should be 32 years. And I honestly, God, believe, had we gotten married when everybody else told us we should have gotten married, we probably would have been divorced 32 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Because when we had, and I'll tell this, and I know a lot of folks don't know this, but we had 2 kids when we got married, and I actually was pregnant with the third one. And of course, when the first one came, oh, y'all got to get married. Y'all got to get married. Well, technically, no, we're not going to do that. I wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. Yes, we did have a child. And I know people going, oh, you had a baby. You was ready to have a baby. Well, it's kind of one of them things.
I wasn't even ready to have a baby. I wasn't ready to
be nobody's mama. But I made some choices.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I made some choices that put me in a position where I became somebody's mother. Okay, let me get this first. Let me understand this. And then I was somebody's mother again. And I was like, okay, wait a minute, hold up. I got to get this. I got to process this first. So then when we did decide to get married and I was pregnant with the third one, there's this, not necessarily instant family, but we technically had an instant family. So we fell into those roles of being a husband and a wife and parents. And I would tell anybody, it was a struggle. Not because the love wasn't there or the care wasn't there. We were just young. And I think I was 20, 21, we got married. I think he was 23. We were just young. We barely knew who we were. So you have to think about it.
Right.
When you're taking somebody and people going, well, that's grown. Yeah, that's grown. That is legally. That don't mean mentally or physically or
developmentally.
Exactly.
I tell people, men's brain don't even stop to fully developed until they're 25.
See,
so men don't really, and I don't say that in a shady way. It's just the reality, and that when we really take the time to process through, one of the great things about being in this time and day and age is that we have so much information. And we know so much more than what we used to know. Back in the day, it was nothing to, let's be clear, there are still some places in this country that will let little girls get married to super grown men if their parents sign off on it. Let's be clear. This still happens. But what we now know is from a developmental standpoint, you don't even know what your brain can't even comprehend, and you just don't know what you don't know.
No, you don't.
And so when we're thinking about this, a lot of times what we're doing is modeling behaviors, and we're operating from what we've seen. So we're just modeling.
Yep.
And at that age, being a parent to two children, one on the way, being somebody's wife, working, having a husband who now has this huge responsibility of this family to provide this covering, provide financially. And that's not even all the stressors that include outside of the home that come with just personhood.
Yep.
And so one of the things I tell people, my mom was a single parent. She raised 4 children by herself. And I used to be so frustrated with her about stuff because I just didn't know. I was a smart kid, but I wasn't as smart as I thought I was because you just don't know what you don't know. As I got older, I became more appreciative of the fact that I had the opportunity to properly go through the different stages of development.
Okay.
I got to be a teenager and have those little silly years. I got to be a young adult from college, grad school. Even in grad school at 23, having my master's, I used to be so frustrated because I couldn't do the stuff that my friends that were my age were doing, because at that point I was considered a real professional. I had a terminal degree. People were talking to me about real life stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I used to get frustrated at times because I knew I couldn't do certain things because people would go, you know better.
Exactly.
And in reality, I was like, not really.
That's when you go, but, because in your mind you're going, but I'm just 23, but I'm just 21. And see, I think I've always been an old spirit. So part of me has probably always been a moment in my mind. And I'm like you, I had my childhood, I had my teenage years, but then when I was 19, I was a mother. And then from then on to now, of course, I'm still a mom, I still got kids, but I have 4 adult children now. So at that time, when I was becoming a parent, becoming a wife, becoming a homemaker, becoming an employee, becoming all of these brand new things. And, you've heard people say, well, I went straight from my daddy's house to my husband's house. And that's basically what I did. So there's some years in there where I didn't get to be an independent young adult. I don't necessarily miss it because I don't even know I don't know what it looks like. I mean, I don't have an idea of it, so I can't really miss it. But I at that time, I looked at my friends, I looked at some of my cousins. They were in college, they were doing things, they were going places. And I knew that my time, I had to be a mother. I had responsibilities. And one of my cousins, and boy, we never, ever, ever, ever in our entire life got into an argument before. We never had harsh words, anything. When I graduated with my bachelor's degree, now I have to tell you that we both graduated as valedictorians of our high schools. I graduated from Grady, she graduated from Gould. And she had gone on, I think at this point, she was working on her master's, and I was still working on undergrad because after a couple of years when I had, after I got the oldest child in kindergarten, I went back to college. I wanted my degree, and that was just, I'm getting it no matter what. I don't care what I got to go through, I'm going to do it. I'm talking about working a full-time job, sometimes working 2 part-time jobs, taking care of a household and kids and a husband, cooking dinner every night, volunteering at the school, the whole 9. And I did not graduate with honors. I think I had a 3.103. And I called her, and man, I was boo-booing something terrible on the phone. And she thought I must have graduated with a 1.5. I don't know what she thought. So she said, well, wait a minute, one thing. What was your grade point? I said, I had 3.103. That girl cursed me out so bad that day. I laughed about it because it was funny. She had never said anything harsh to me. We had never, but she told me off some kind of good that day. They told me if I didn't shut my so-and-so mouth, she said, girl, you got a family. You got kids, you got a husband, you got a job, you cooking, you cleaning, you doing all this stuff, and you mad because all you had was a 3.103. Yeah, that's good. Shut your. She told me off, and I was like, okay, I guess it wasn't too bad.
But sometimes things gotta be In perspective.
Exactly. And she helped me do that very quickly and let me know you have to look at your responsibilities. You went back to college after having kids, after having a family, after putting, and she said, and you balanced all of this while you were going to school. And you complaining because you had a 3.1. She was like, shut up. I'm proud of you. You did a wonderful job. You did great, blah, 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 blah. And I had to sit back and think about that because one of the things that I'd always looked at is when you come out of high school and you go directly into being a parent or being married or whatever, people's expectations of you don't change. People don't go and say, oh, well, I hope she's just the best wife she could ever be, or I hope she's the best mother she could be. What happens is you hear a lot of, well, I thought she was going to do better with her life. I thought that she could have done better than that. Oh my gosh, she got kids and she married. Her life is over. And that came from a person very, 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 very close to me who said, because I had kids, my life was over.
Can we talk about that for just a
moment?
Please do.
Please.
Expectations. This goes back to relationships. I know a lot of people who got married out of expectation. You said when you first got pregnant, people saying y'all should get married. Let me tell you who the absolute worst about this. Church folk. Had I listened to church folk, I would have been married to some random guy who we didn't have nothing in common. And please hear me and understand this. I believe in God. I believe in the word of God. I, however, know that this ain't heaven. This ain't perfect here. So we can strive and attempt. I can't tell you how many women I know who are abstaining and waiting for their husbands. And then I can't tell you how many people I know who have gotten to the point that they going, Lord, if you stop making husbands, just tell me that. It's been a little joke. But I'm like, it's real lopsided out here in the streets of people who desire marriage and the expectations. And so a lot of times people are doing things based on what other people expect of them, and they have no expectations for themselves. Oh, well, I'm going to do this because everybody expects it. Why are you doing stuff for people who ain't even reaching their own expectation? Why do you care what they think? And I don't understand that.
But that's it. It's the people that have not necessarily done anything with their lives who want to tell you how to run your life. And honestly, that's the first people that said something. What was my so-called church family, and stopping my mama. Well, what is she gonna do? Or is she getting married? Or she ought to do what's right? I'm like,
people act like getting married is, but marrying the wrong person can be more detrimental to your spiritual well-being and everything else. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about how a lot of people ended up in marriages because they were just encouraged. When you gonna get married, I shut that down. When you having a baby, why are you worried about my reproductive health?
Exactly.
For a fact, are you taking care of the children that you have? Sir, ma'am, do you take up time with your nieces and nephews? I love my family and my uncle. I ain't trying to throw you under the bus, but yesterday, it was said to me, when you going to give me a great niece or nephew? I said, you already have, it's 7 of them, but 6 living. There are 6 of them, and 5 of them are little kids. You could go pick them up.
That's enough.
That's enough. My contribution is called PhD, Family Legacy. Don't nobody need to expect nothing else. If the Lord want me to be somebody mama, I'll be somebody mama. But unless God say so, I'm not worried about it.
There you go.
And so having that conversation with people, I've learned how to get people to stop putting their expectations on me. And when they give it to me, I give it back in a real world, real life way. I'm never disrespectful to my elders. Excuse me. However, I don't allow people to try to force stuff on me out of tradition. My father and I were having a conversation about living situations and things of that nature. And he was like, well, that's so non-traditional. And I said, well, Daddy, people say this stuff, but they act like people who live in the same house. don't cheat, have whole families and everything else, and go lay in the same bed with their partner or their spouse all the time. The biggest takeaway around relationships for me is, one, you need to do your own work and figure out what it is you desire for your life. And stop letting other people put their expectations on you.
And I think it works both ways. I'm sure that men probably get the same amount of pressure. Because I hear people going, oh my God, my son still ain't married. When he gonna make me some grandbabies? Okay, whoa. I've actually heard other people say that. I have grandkids. I have 6 grandkids, and I thank God for them. But let me tell you this, what I did not do. I didn't rush my kids to have anything. I already know how tough it is. Why would I want you now to go out and struggle and have to go through and deal with? I'm not going to rush you to do anything. Between myself and my sister and one of my brothers, we have 3 30-something-year-old daughters. That they are not married. Now, the weird thing is our boys are. Both of my sons are married, and my sister has 2 sons. One of them is already married, one is getting married. But our daughters, no ma'am, they not. They like, look, we ain't finna do it. And I tell them all the time, I'm absolutely proud of the fact that, number one, you know who you are. You have done the work. You've lived your life. You're experiencing all the things that you want to experience. You've established yourself. You've done your education. You're rising in your career. You're set. And you are doing the things that make you feel like a whole person. Because the other side of it is, we think that we can't be a whole woman or we can't be a whole man unless we got another half a man or a half a woman with us. And if you a half person, you go find a half person. Y'all just still 2 halves, because neither person is complete inside themselves. And I like the fact that they're very choosy. They're very selective in who they date. They're very selective in who they spend their time with. They're very selective they're selective in what they want. And I'm glad they're that way. I don't want them to go out here and marry the first knucklehead that comes along.
Right.
I don't have that many bullets, and I'm trying to reserve my bullets. I'm serious, and I'm glad. I don't want them to be in a situation where just cause this guy is cute, nice, or whatever, and yet a family might love him. Hey, there are some Jekyll and Hyde folks out here like it ain't nothing. Right. And the last thing I want is for one of them to go and marry somebody because, well, everybody else kind of likes him, and he's this, and this. And then you get into something that's hellacious, and you over there going through stuff. And again, I don't have very many bullets, and I'm trying not to use the ones I got. But I don't want them to be in situations. I want them in situationships, for one. But I just don't want them to be in a relationship that's not going to be fulfilling, that's not going to be healthy, and it's not going to be safe for them. Because they feel like, oh my God, I'm 30-something years old, my clock is ticking. Let that sucker tick.
Yes. One of the worst things I got into a relationship when I started my doctorate program, and I'm so honest about it. My family knows, friends know. I'm not one of those people who like, I don't share everything because everybody doesn't need to know everything, but I'm still pretty transparent in the sense that the guy I dated, good person, we just weren't good for each other. And I knew it, but being in school, being lonely, being in a whole new city and state by myself. And then also the pressure from all those years that I chose not to do serious dating because school was my boyfriend. Like I literally would say that. For me, it was important that I did what I wanted to do for myself because I couldn't imagine living a life where I was so responsible for other people, but I had dreams deferred. I didn't want to have that life where I had things I wanted to do and I had to sacrifice them because I had a husband, because I had children. And so I was very intentional, and by the grace of God, because I didn't always put myself in positions where I couldn't have ended up in those situations. Let me be clear. So, however, at that point, I ended up in a relationship and it caused so much stress and strife and disappointment and hurt for both of us. Because for me, I was trying to make a relationship. I was trying to make it a relationship and make it work and look how I thought relationships were supposed to look. And it just didn't work. And it was a lot of stress because it became a lot of pressure for him. And for him, I was the dream girl. I was smart. I was pretty and all this stuff. But that was also a point of frustration because he wasn't happy with who he was. Yeah. And the relationship taught me a lot of valuable lessons about choosing a spouse and being with a man that I know me really well. I am ambitious. I'm always striving. Not because I'm trying to earn something. It's just when stuff come to me, I got to get it out. And so I know I have to be with somebody who is secure, who has their own worth and value, and that they don't feel challenged by my success or what they deem as my success. I'm still trying to figure out who I'm going to be when I grow up. I say that all the time.
We all are.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out who I'm going to be when I grow up. And so I actively work towards that. And so being with someone who's connected to purpose and understanding a lot of things when we talk about relationships, we need to understand where we're getting these messages from and how we have internalized those things and how we're playing them out and understanding what matters to us. When we do that, we can then be in healthy relationships with people. I see this within one of my close friend groups. Oh, we've gone through some stuff. I'm talking about to the point where when I started going to therapy again a few years ago, that was one of the main reasons because there was so much tension within my friend group. And I'm like, Lord, I'm 30-something years old. Why I'm stressing about it? And my therapist had to remind me it's because you care about them, you love them. And so this is a relationship you value. You don't want to just cast it aside. And so there was still value there. And then it became a mutual thing of knowing when to, I'm going to go take a break. We were able to come back, but everybody has done their work. And so we have an authentic, healthy bond that's not based on, oh, we just been friends for years. Relationships. Oh, well, we've dated for years, so we just got to get married. That's what everybody expects. Y'all been dating since y'all were 16. It's okay if y'all take a break in college or to go do your stuff and see if that's what you really want. I think when we teach people how to learn to be in relationship with themselves, then we can help people learn how to be in relationship with other people.
Exactly.
If you don't like yourself, you don't value yourself, you don't know what you want in life, and you're trying to get that from somebody else, we start giving people God-sized problems to deal with instead of us giving it to God. God, I got a self-esteem issue. God, I got a body image issue. Lord, there's some trauma here. I need you to help me with that. So when you do end up in a relationship, you're not going, here, deal with this bag of stuff and accept me how I am. But I need you to be perfect so we can have this image. Self-work. You have to do the work with yourself and be honest with yourself. So that's the main thing I really encourage people to think about is what kind of relationship do you have with you? Do you know how to spend time by yourself? If you don't like spending time with you, why would you expect somebody else to?
Exactly. So let's talk real quick about, I know we talked a little bit about gray divorce. And a lot of people don't probably know what that is. And that's just when you've been married those 20, 30, whatever years and you get a divorce and people go, how in the world after 20 years or 30 years do you walk away from that? And there's so many different reasons. You know, I told you about there's some relationships I know about where people have been married those amount of years. And from the outside, because that's all we see now, like you said about what people allow you to see. From the outside, you thought, man, they have got to be in love. They're looking good. Everything looks all pretty and shiny and whatever, but go home and you have two broken people there. You know, and over the time, what happens is there's a breakdown in communication. There is a breakdown in expectations of each other. There has been, as we can say, the rose-colored glasses have come off. So no longer does he look like that knight in shining armor, and you are no longer that princess. You know, people have these exaggerated expectations of what love and what romance and all that stuff is. And there comes a time when it melts away. Because when you've been struggling financially, you've had issues with kids, you've had issues with parents, you've had issues with jobs, and all these different things. Over time, if everybody's not taking care of themselves and you're not taking care of the other person, it is very easy to get to 30 years and say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Because it becomes a place where um, like the lady said earlier about whether or not the relationship is healthy or is it an oppressed relationship. Have you been held back from living your dreams, or has this other person been held back from living their dreams? And resentment builds.
Mm-hmm.
And there could have been some times where there might have been some cheating or some other things that went on that were never resolved. And then some of that comes from what you said in the beginning. Well, grandma and grandpa's married for 50 years, so I guess I might as well be married for 50 years too. But nobody is happy. So it just comes a time when things, what is the movie that 50 Cent was in some years ago? Things Fall Apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think about that title, when I think about this, is that things fall apart. Sometimes things get so far wrong or so far to the left that it's very hard to pull back and pull those things back together again. So when you see a couple after 30 years that say, "Hey, I can't do it anymore," I don't think a lot of times it's that they don't love each other. I just think that it comes a time when the relationship is really not useful for either one of them anymore. So what do you think about that?
So, being someone who witnessed this, and it was devastating for me, but understanding that I didn't know all the information, and that I think some key things with that, the people who are connected to folks, I think a lot of times married couples don't always have enough people they can turn to. Either they got the friend that's, oh, see, I told you he or she wasn't about nothing, or the family members, yeah, just divorce them. And it's just like, yo, you have to have people who value marriage around you to help you through these times. Father always says this, and it's kind of something I've taken on in the sense that I don't take marriage advice like hardcore. You can't tell me how to be married if you've never been married and you don't do that. Now, as a therapist, people go, well, don't you talk to people about this? Yes, but I talk to people about some principles of relationships, communication, learning how to communicate your needs and not demanding, learning how not to make people feel attacked and things of that nature. But learning compromise, it's work. Relationships are work. And so you need a do not enter sign if you don't like to work to come over here. I got a do not enter sign. If you don't want to do none of the work that comes with being in a relationship. And so when you look at those relationships that have gotten to that point, really interested to hear when people start talking to me to tell me what happened along the way. And there were things that should have been addressed that they never addressed. Oh, well, I'm afraid if then this. And it's like, okay, but you have to understand that's what leads to what we call a power effect. It started with, oh, they stopped coming home for dinner. Oh, they stopped doing stuff to make me feel special. And so these seeds of doubt, these seeds of contentment, and all of this stuff get planted and it never gets addressed. And so by 20, 30 years, it's just like, you know what, we just doing this because I want my kids to have a mama, or I want my kids to have a daddy. I don't want to do what my mama and daddy did, or I don't want to be that family to break the family tradition. And so learning how to communicate is so important, and not just communication, because you can talk, but comprehend, learning how to listen, actively listen to another person, and not always, I call it getting beyond yourself. Some people can't get beyond themselves to say they life, that they can't relate to somebody else. They can't understand someone else's feelings. they can't do any of that. They really struggle with seeing someone else's perspective and point of view. And it's important to have those people who can have those conversations. One of the things we talk a lot about in my field and that I'm hearing about, whether we're talking about relationships, we're talking about grief, is seeking counsel. I'm not saying you always need a therapist, but I am saying sometimes your church pastor, sometimes that's who you need to seek counsel from.
Yeah.
But I'm also very clear that there are some issues that you're going to get a straight biblical response and not a human response and a real life response. No, I need you to help me learn how to live through this and not just tell me something in theory. I need you to make it clear in practice. Oh, no, you can't divorce your husband. Well, is that what the word says? Or is that just the image that we have to put up? I'm not advocating divorce. Let me be clear. But I am, hold on one second. But I am clear about the fact that people have to learn to determine what your relationship looks for you. When you look at couples who've been together this 20, 30 years, it's devastating because you go, man, I thought they was going to make it. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, as a single woman, I look for help. I look to see who's having healthy relationships, not just long relationships, who has healthy relationships. And I really try to connect with those people and glean from them. And the thing that I've learned is, hey, you got to learn how to be quiet sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes you need to let a man lead. I don't have to do everything. I'm not a strong Black woman. I'm just a woman. I'm a Black woman who does what I need to do, but I know how to receive help. I know how to accept help. I know how to let somebody do stuff for me and care for me. All of these things are important. When you look at relationships of that time frame and people get to the point where they say they're done, I think that if people really just reflect on what got them to that point, I'm almost certain that they will identify some key things that they should have addressed 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And I think also people's ability to forgive and people mutual, where it's both people. One person could want something so bad, I want this to work, and the other person say, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. So you can't. The one thing I've learned, my friends and I talk about this, is that I've learned over the past few years, I can't possess anyone. Yes, I want to be married. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to get on y'all nerve. My hand going to be up. My husband. And you're going to get that from me for a few good weeks. That's when I got this PhD, Dr. Theresa Flowers. But in reality, it's the doing of life. Yeah. And being in life that I look forward to, of doing life with someone, to share the ups, the downs, the joys, the pains, and to do that for them as well. It's not what marriage can do for me. I know the type of person I am, so it's what I want to do for somebody. Exactly. So I know it's important that he has to have that mindset concerning me. He has to. Otherwise, I'm going to feel used. I'm going to feel abused. It's not going to be good. And so knowing that is important. And so I think that when people get to that point, I believe people, if you know that you and the person you're with, the quality of life has gone down and this is just surviving. That's one of the saddest things that I see, is that some people are literally just surviving. They have not moved to the aspect of thriving in life. Yeah. And it's really sad for me because I'm like, man, it's so much. It's so much. And I'm not talking about things of money or just the experience of life, the fullness of life, and being able to experience that. I think it's very important. And so when people get to that point where they don't have that, they really do have to do that introspection to say, is this worth it? Because some people say we stand together for the kids and just don't realize you just model for your kids how to stay in unhealthy situations and relationships that don't help them, and it doesn't serve anybody. I'm like, God don't get no glory from that. People love to say what we should do for, well, God said, okay, what glory is God getting when y'all fighting and arguing, y'all hate each other?
Exactly.
Y'all literally hate each other. What glory comes from that? Let's stop and let's be honest and stop just having this rhetoric, and let's really talk about what's life-giving, what's fruitful, and how that happens and what that looks like. And so I really think that that comes from uh, basing our relationships on more than just image. I think you got to like somebody. Because I love some people I don't like.
True. I think we all do.
And so getting to a place of liking somebody and being open to the growth and change. Because I'm like, when I look at who I was 15 years ago, I look now and I be like, dang, who's that girl?
That's something that we really have to consider, is that there is growth. Now, it's gonna sound funny to say there's such thing as negative growth, and it actually is. And it just means that you grew, but you didn't grow in the right direction, or you didn't necessarily grow in a positive direction.
Some people just regress.
Yeah, you got cynical, you got more you got depressed, you got your attitude is more negative. And some people just that's and in their mind that's their growth. And then you have some people that go, you know what? No matter what my situation is, I'm gonna still excel. I'm gonna still live my dreams. I'm gonna go and do what I need to do, and that becomes an unequal thing also. And we've been talking about church the whole thing, and then we can go back to the unequally yoked thing. It's a whole lot of different things you can throw in there that can cause everything to get off kilter in the relationship. You don't have the same belief system. You don't have the same idea about discipline, how you discipline your kids, or you don't have the same attitude about money. And finances, man, that's the killer of all killers almost, is that you don't have the same attitude about money. I'm a saver, you're a spender. I'm resourceful, you're wasteful. So when you have those situations, we have family issues where your family is in our business a little too much and my family might not be in it enough, or there's too much family around, or whatever the living conditions is. So it's so many different things that when you really start thinking about how a 20-year, 15-year, 20, 30-year relationship can go a certain kind of way. I know people that had stepchildren, and their children basically broke up their relationship because you couldn't put things in perspective and protect me from them, and I couldn't do the same for you. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean me, but just saying that there are people that I know that their kids basically ruin their relationship. So it's so many different parts and pieces that play into this thing, and people grow apart. People's purposes and visions change. Sometimes one person has a mission or a vision for their life, and other person might not have any. And it's very difficult for you to work with. If you think about being at work and you're working on a team, and if half of the team understands that there's a vision and the goal for us this week is to hit $100,000 in sales, but you have the other half of the team that's going, well, we don't really have to. Well, I just want to write books. They want to do something totally different. It's very hard to be on the same page. It's very hard to work when both parties are pulling away rather than pulling together. And if we don't have the same mission, we don't have the same vision, we don't have an idea of what direction we want the relationship to go in, it falls apart. And a lot of times it goes back to what you said earlier. Everything is not communication, but a whole lot of it usually is. And it's because one person felt like they weren't being heard, no matter how loud they spoke it or how many times they said it. The other person just bounced off.
And I think a key to that, when talking to people, I do a lot of reflective stuff, and I also come back to people and say, what did you hear me say?
Yep.
So that I can hear what you heard. And I do this in my work. I've had a client tell me before, I felt like you were yelling at me and were trying to force me. And I said, and then they said to me, I know that's not what you were doing, but that's how I felt. And I told them, I appreciate you for letting me know. Now let's process and talk about what I actually said and why you took it, why you felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to communicate and learning to listen instead of to be heard
Mm-hmm.
is a skill. But when we feel like we're not heard, a lot of people feel they need to raise their voice because you're not hearing you raising your voice not gonna help.
No.
Learning how to effectively communicate. I encourage all couples to do communication activities and to do check-ins as far as purposes and goals, what they want. Sitting down and doing that together, getting some stuff on paper. Okay, if you want to be the one to do the 100,000, and I'm like, listen, I think we could do 50. Okay, what's the compromise here?
We do 75.
Is 75 appropriate? Is that a little more? Is that too much? Or, where do we come to an agreement on this? And what are you willing to do? Because there has to be some accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like doing this. Would you be willing to do this? I'll do that stuff. Setting boundaries and being open and knowing that that's going to change. But the one thing we can't control other people, we can control ourselves. So I always remind myself whenever conflict arises, I always ask myself, okay, how are you responding? How are you contributing to this either getting better or getting worse? And that's with every relationship I have in my life. I set good boundaries with my mom, with my dad, with my siblings, my friends. If people start talking about stuff I want to talk about, I'd be like, I don't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
It don't sound offensive. It don't sound like I'm being mean. I'm just telling you what I will and won't listen to. Yeah. And if it's with someone I'm dating, hey, I didn't feel like I was being heard. I felt like you shut me down. I'm not saying that was your intention, but I'm telling you that's how I felt. So when you're talking to me, this is more helpful for me to hear what you're saying to me if you can communicate like this. If somebody's not willing to meet that, then this is the stuff we need to learn to do early on. A lot of times I hear people say, I ain't know that about them. Y'all dated for 5 years.
Exactly.
You didn't know? That means you weren't asking the right questions or you wasn't listening. Or you were in denial.
Yeah.
That you thought, well, maybe that'll change when. No, maybe you need to expect that you got what you got right now. You hope it gets better and it improves. But if this is all you got, if you're not good with that, you might want to leave that alone.
Yeah. And some people just steamroll, so they don't take time to even learn what the other person likes or don't like anyway. Now, look, we've been past our hour.
We passed time.
So before we go, just give what's your I don't want to say your best because I know you got a bunch of them, but just give me one really good relationship tip that you think that everybody ought to know.
Learn how to be in relationship with yourself. Learn your likes, your dislikes, what makes you tick. Have a season of singleness for real. And when I say that, I mean, put a pause on the little friends, the person you talk to when you get bored. That's probably been one of the most beneficial things I did in my life was to have a season of true singleness. True singleness. And do it just for the sake of your self-growth. Not for the sake that if I do this, then that must happen. Because I'm not going to lie, initially, if I do this, then I'm supposed to get a husband because I'm honoring God. And listen. And then when it happened, I was like, Jesus, what happened? I'm doing everything you told me to do. And I later realized that God was like, no, there's a bigger purpose. I'm developing you. I'm growing you so you can get rid of some of these habits you have. You can be manipulative, girl. Me? Manipulative? No. Yes. You could be controlling. Me? No. Yes. Take some time. I'm for real. When I tell you I had to get with me about me, but it took being in a season of singleness, of truly. When I tell you I didn't have dudes who I was like kikiing with, letting low-key flirt. No. If I met a guy who wanted to date and I seen he was about some bull, block. I'm not going back and forth with you about it, sir. I already see you don't mean me any good. Men need to do this as well. And I know it's hard for people because we got so much access. Everything from YouTube, Instagram, Pornhub, just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Booty and boobs everywhere. People willing to throw it at you, give it to you, pay you to take it. All of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about for men because I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Women paying and taking care of them because they don't want to be by themselves. And then when it's time to enter in a real relationship with somebody, it's so much of a struggle because you haven't taken some time to really figure out who are you, what do you want, what do you value, what's important for you. Mm-hmm. Go learn yourself. Go spend some time with yourself. Learn your communication style. We talk about love language. How you expect somebody to speak your love language when you don't even know what it is?
Exactly.
So that's my biggest takeaway when dealing with relationships, that we must have first learn how to be in relationship with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And a big part of that for me was learning and getting in relationship with God for real, when I'm honest. When I truly got in my personal relationship with God, not what somebody taught me at church, because a lot of what they taught me wasn't even about God. It was just about rituals and routines. It was a few little scriptures and they were misapplied. And it was just like, I remember when I really started getting to the truth, I was like, y'all been playing all these years? Mm-hmm. Y'all done wasted all this time playing? That's what we've been doing? But when I really got in a real relationship with God, I better understood love. I better understood grace. I better understood mercy. And when I learned how to apply those things to myself, I can more easily apply it to somebody else. The word of God says, love your neighbor as yourself. How you going to love somebody when you don't love yourself?
Exactly.
You can't. No. So that's my skills.
That was a nice little short sermon. Thank you. As always, I appreciate you when you come on because, again, I told y'all at the beginning she knew her stuff and you know your stuff. So we got some good information. I appreciate everything that you share with us. I hope that information helps someone in their journey to strengthen and better their relationships. I'm learning as I'm listening to you. And like I said, I've been doing it for a long time, but I always look at things and go, there's always a way to do things better. There's always a way to improve our relationships. There's always a way to improve ourselves. So I really enjoy and appreciate listening to you and talking to you about this. We'll have to do another show again. I have one that's coming up here pretty soon. And I said it was going to be the Battle of the Sexes, but it's actually going to be more about relationships. And I'll have 2 guys and 2 girls on. So I want to hear what that sounds like when you get these two sides talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I might have to have you come referee this one, but I want to hear what it sounds like when these 2 sides get together and discuss relationships. So, all right, y'all.
Just let me know, and thank you as always for the invite. Love being able to have these conversations. It forces me to think as well about how I'm thinking about things and managing myself, because there's a level of accountability when you come out and say something and you held to that.
Make it up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Again, go to the Facebook page and like and follow us. Make sure that you subscribe and you hit the little bell on YouTube so you can get the videos as they post. And then check us out on Instagram. Make sure that you follow our posts and like those also. So thank you all again for a wonderful night. Thank you, Chef. That's my girl. She still ain't cooked me no food yet. But anyway.
When she come back.
Look, I still like her though. She ain't cooked for me yet though. Anyway. Miss Sanders, thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate the comments. If you want to leave comments after the show, we'll get back to you. If there's a question that you want to ask, I'll make sure that Dr. Flowers gets that question. So thank you again.
Can I make a quick statement before we wrap up? Okay, so I'm super excited about something. I am in the works, and I will get you a flyer once I get it posted, but I am in the works of doing offering bait therapy for people, and definitely looking at doing small groups as well for men or women, families, to do bait therapy sessions where they will come in. We will make something from scratch and bake it, but it'll also be a therapy session. So it's kind of like play therapy with kids, but yeah. So I'm super excited about it. It's something that I have been wanting to do for years, and things are falling in place. I have the space and time to do it. So once I get my pricing and everything figured out, I'll get a flyer posted, and I'm gonna just go from there to see what interest is out there and how we could make it work. But I'm super excited about it. I love to bake, and it's very therapeutic. And so to help people kind of process and have something to take away, it's a lot of lessons I think that's going to come through that. But I just wanted to make sure I shared since I have a platform.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited.
I'm excited. All right. Well, y'all make sure that you come back Thursday night. I'll be cooking in Lord, I forgot the name. Oh, the Mayrose Cafe Live. I was like, what's the name of my kitchen? Mayrose Cafe Live on Thursday at 7 p.m. So make sure you tune in. This week we're gonna eat breakfast for dinner.
Oh,
give you a good breakfast that you can make for dinner. So make sure you tune in Thursday, and then make sure you come back next Tuesday, because I think next Tuesday is when we'll have our Battle of the Sexes. So we'll have the guys and the gals come in. We're going to talk about relationships again, but I want to hear what it sounds like when everybody else talks about it. So anyway, thank you all for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. Dr. Flowers, as always, it is a pleasure. Stick around for just a second so we can get a picture after we sign off. And to everybody else, have a good rest of your evening and enjoy yourself and be safe. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night.
Night.